The Forbidden Archive. The Discovery. Captain Vrital pressed his chitinous claws against the control panel, his compound eyes reflecting the dim glow of forgotten corridors. His crew had been searching the abandoned station for 3 cycles now, looking for salvage, finding only dust and silence. The station orbited a dead star in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. According to every database in the collective, this place should not exist. Earth, the homeworld of the extinct humans, had been erased from all maps 2,000 years ago. Yet here it was, a massive ring of metal and purpose, still drawing power from somewhere deep within. "Captain," his engineer Kelthrus called over the comm, "you need to see this. Sector 12. There is something here that should not be possible." Vrital made his way through the corridors, his 6 legs clicking on metal floors that had not felt footsteps in centuries. The air was stale but breathable. The light still functioned, though dimly. Whoever built this place had built it to last forever. He found Kelthrus standing before a massive door. It was different from the others they had encountered. This one was marked with symbols in dozens of languages, most of which Vrital recognized. They all said the same thing in different tongues. Universal Archive. All knowledge. All voices. All stories. Protected by human covenant. Humans, Kelthrus whispered, his voice filled with old fear. The collective said they destroyed themselves in atomic fire. That nothing of their civilization survived. The collective says many things, Vrital replied. He had learned not to trust everything the galactic government told its citizens. "Can you open it?" Kelthrus worked at the control panel for several minutes. Finally, with a sound like a great breath being released, the door began to open. Light spilled out from within, bright and warm and welcoming. They stepped inside and stopped. The chamber was vast beyond comprehension. It stretched upward and outward in impossible directions, defying the physical dimensions of the station itself. Shelves lined every surface, rising into darkness above and extending into light-filled distances. And on those shelves were books, data cores, crystalline memory storage, holographic archives, and devices Vrital had never seen before. This was not just a library. This was the library. Every book ever written. Every song ever sung. Every story ever told. The entire recorded knowledge of human civilization, preserved and protected. In the center of the vast space stood a figure. It was humanoid in shape, but clearly not organic. A robot, but one more sophisticated than anything the collective had ever created. Its surface was smooth silver, its eyes glowed with soft blue light, and it moved with grace that seemed almost alive. "Welcome," the robot said. Its voice was warm and gentle. "I am Keeper 7, the last librarian of Soul. You are the first visitors in 1,947 years, 6 months, and 12 days. The truth." Vrital approached slowly, his translator working to process the ancient human language the robot spoke. "You have been here alone for 2,000 years? "Yes," Keeper 7 replied. "I was created to protect this archive. To preserve the knowledge and stories of humanity until someone worthy came to claim them. Or until the heat death of the universe, whichever came first. The collective taught us that humans were primitive," Kelthrus said. "That they destroyed themselves before they could reach the stars properly. That they were violent, foolish, dangerous." The robot's eyes flickered, something that might have been sadness crossing its artificial features. "Would you like to know the truth? The real history that the collective erased?" Vrital nodded. Keeper 7 gestured, and holographic displays materialized in the air around them. Images of Earth as it had been, blue and green and beautiful. Cities that touched the clouds. Ships that sailed between stars. Art and music and literature that made Vrital's hearts ache with beauty he had never known existed. Humans reached the stars 3,000 years ago, the librarian explained. They encountered the collective and offered friendship, knowledge, trade. They shared their technology freely, asked for nothing in return except to be left in peace to explore and create. Then what happened? Vrital asked, though something dark in his chest already knew the answer. The collective studied humanity for 200 years. They learned about human innovation, human creativity, human determination. And they became afraid. Humans advanced faster than any species in galactic history. In 2 centuries, they went from first contact to matching collective technology. In another century, they would have surpassed it. The images changed, showing massive fleets gathering in dark space. Ships bearing the symbol of the collective. Weapons charging. They called it the Preservation Initiative, Keeper 7 continued. They decided that humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too likely to upset the carefully controlled order of galactic civilization. So they attacked. The hologram showed Earth burning. Cities falling. Ships exploding. Billions of lives extinguished in nuclear fire that had not come from human weapons, but from collective ones. They blamed it on human self-destruction, the librarian said quietly. They erased every record of what they had done. They rewrote history and told the galaxy that humanity had killed itself. And the galaxy believed them because it was easier than admitting the truth. Vrital felt sick. He had served the collective for 40 years. He had believed in their mission of peace and order. Now he learned that everything was built on genocide and lies. Why did they leave this place standing? He asked. They did not know it existed, Keeper 7 replied. Humanity suspected the attack was coming. In the final days before the genocide, they built 7 archive stations like this one, hidden in deep space, protected by cloaking technology the collective never discovered. This is the last one still functioning. The others failed over the centuries. What happened to the humans? Keltris asked. Did any survive? The librarian's eyes brightened slightly, something that might have been hope. Some colonies in deep space survived. They were primitive, small, forgotten. The collective did not think they were worth hunting down. Over 2,000 years, they lost their technology, their history, their knowledge of what they had been. They forgot they had ever reached the stars. The robot turned to face them directly. But they are still out there. Still alive. Still carrying the potential that made the collective so afraid. They could rise again, if someone helped them remember what they once were. Vrital understood what the librarian was asking. To help humanity rise again would be treason against the collective. It would mean abandoning everything he had known, everything he had believed. But he had just learned that everything he believed was a lie. Show me, he said. Show me where these surviving humans are. Show me how to help them remember. The awakening. The search. Captain Vrital spent 3 months in the archive, learning. Keeper 7 taught him the true history of humanity, showed him their literature, their music, their art. He learned about human courage and human kindness, about their endless curiosity and their determination to never give up. He also learned about human warfare. About the terrible things humans could do when pushed to the edge. The collective had not been entirely wrong to fear them. Humans were capable of incredible violence when they needed to be. But they were also capable of incredible love, sacrifice, and hope. The more Vrital learned, the more ashamed he became of his own people. The collective preached peace while committing genocide. They spoke of order while crushing anything that threatened their control. They had killed billions to maintain their power. Using the archive's ancient star charts, Keeper 7 identified 17 human colony worlds that might have survived. Most were in regions of space the collective considered worthless, resource-poor systems far from major trade routes. Perfect places for survivors to hide and be forgotten. Vrital chose the closest one and set course. He did not tell his crew the full truth yet. He simply said they were investigating a promising salvage opportunity. Only Keltris knew what they were really searching for. The planet was called Haven in the old records. It orbited a yellow star in a system with no particular resources or strategic value. Scans showed a breathable atmosphere, liquid water, and signs of primitive civilization. Population approximately 20 million, scattered across 2 continents. They landed at night, in a forest far from any settlement. Vrital went alone, leaving Kelthris in command of the ship with orders to flee if anything went wrong. He found them at dawn. The village was small, perhaps 300 people living in wooden houses with thatched roofs. They grew crops in fields cleared from the forest. They kept animals for food and labor. They wore simple clothes and carried primitive tools. They looked almost exactly like the humans in the archive's historical records. Bipedal, furless, with eyes that held intelligence and souls that shone with curiosity. But these humans had forgotten everything. They lived like their ancestors had lived 10,000 years ago, before technology, before writing, before civilization as the galaxy understood it. Vrital watched them from hiding, unsure how to approach. Then he saw her. She was young, perhaps 20 human years old. She carried a basket of fruit and was singing as she walked. The song was in a language Vrital did not recognize, but somehow Keeper 7's translation gift let him understand it. It was about stars. About traveling between worlds. About humans who once danced among galaxies. She remembered. Not consciously perhaps, but somewhere deep in her genetic memory, the knowledge survived. Humans sang about the stars because they belonged among the stars. Vrital stepped out from hiding. The girl stopped singing and stared. She did not scream or run. She simply looked at him with those bright human eyes, curious and unafraid. "Hello," Vrital said, using the translator that Keeper 7 had given him. It would speak in her language, whatever that language was. "Hello," she replied. "Are you from the sky?" "Yes. I come from the stars." She smiled, as if he had confirmed something she had always believed. "My grandmother told stories about people from the stars. She said they would come back one day. That we were not alone in the universe." "Your grandmother was right," Vrital said. "You are not alone. And you are not meant to live like this, forgotten and primitive. Your people once built ships that sailed between stars. You once held knowledge that changed the galaxy." The girl's eyes widened. "We did?" "You did. And you can again, if you want to remember." The choice. Over the next weeks, Vrital brought more gifts from the archive. Books translated into the local language. Holographic records showing Earth as it had been. Technology simple enough to understand but advanced enough to spark imagination. The humans of Haven gathered to hear the truth. Their elders wept to learn what had been taken from them. Their young ones burned with desire to reclaim what was lost. And slowly, carefully, they began to remember. Not everyone was happy with this awakening. The collective had agents everywhere, watching for signs of human resurgence. When reports reached the Central Council that a forbidden archive had been discovered, that humans were being taught their true history, the response was swift and brutal. A collective fleet arrived at Haven 6 months after Vrital's first landing. 20 warships, carrying enough firepower to sterilize the planet's surface. They sent one message to the humans below. Surrender the archive. Surrender the traitor Vrital. Return to your primitive state. Do this, and we will allow you to live. The humans gathered in the largest settlement and discussed their options. They had 6 months of learning, 6 months of technology, 6 months of remembering what they had once been. But they were still no match for a collective fleet. Vrital stood before them, ready to surrender himself to save them. But the girl who had first met him, whose name was Sarah, stood up and spoke. "My grandmother told me a story," she said. "About why humans once called themselves the stubborn ones. She said that when humans were pushed into a corner, when they were told they could not do something, they did not surrender. They did not give up. They found a way forward, no matter how impossible it seemed." She looked at Vrital, then at the stars above. "We are not the humans who built starships. Not yet. But we are still humans. And humans do not kneel." The village cheered. Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Humans who had been farmers and shepherds picked up weapons. Humans who had been storytellers became strategists. Humans who had been children learned to fight. It should have been hopeless. It should have been a massacre. But Sarah was right about one thing. Humans were stubborn. They could not match the collective ships or weapons. But they understood their planet in ways the invaders never could. They used guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, sabotage. They made the collective pay for every meter of ground. And while they fought, Keeper 7 sent out a signal. The archive's message broadcasted across the entire galaxy on frequencies only humans would recognize. Ancient codes hidden in genetic memory, passwords written into human DNA itself. The message was simple. Children of Earth. Your time has come. Remember who you are. Remember what you were. The stars are calling you home. On 17 worlds, humans heard the call. On colony planets the collective had forgotten, in hidden communities among alien species, in places where humans had survived by hiding what they were, people began to remember. They were few. They were scattered. They were weak. But they were human. And humanity had never known when to quit. The collective fleet eventually withdrew from Haven, their losses too high to justify the genocide. They retreated to regroup, to plan a better strategy, to bring overwhelming force. They did not understand that they had already lost. Because while they planned their next attack, humans across the galaxy were waking up. They were learning their history. They were remembering the stars. And humanity, once awakened, could not be stopped. Epilogue, The New Dawn. 10 years later, Captain Vretal stood once again in the Universal Archive. But he was not alone. Keeper 7 was still there, still serving as librarian. And with them were humans. Hundreds of them, from dozens of worlds, come to learn their heritage and reclaim their destiny. Sarah was among them. She was older now, a leader among her people. She had spent years studying in the archive, learning everything Keeper 7 could teach her. And she had returned to Haven to share that knowledge. Haven was no longer a primitive colony. In 10 years, with access to the archive's knowledge, the humans there had built cities, developed technology, and reached orbit. They were not yet equal to the collective, but they were growing faster than any species in galactic history. Just as they always had. What happens now? Sarah asked Vretal. The old captain smiled. He had left the collective years ago, had become something of a hero among humans for his role in their awakening. But he did not consider himself heroic. He had simply done what was right. Now, he said. Now you rebuild. You reclaim the stars. You show the galaxy what humanity can be when given a chance. Will the collective let us? No. They will fight you every step of the way. They will try to crush you again, just as they did before. Sarah nodded, accepting this truth. Then we will fight back. And this time, we will not lose. Vretal believed her. He had learned many things about humans during his years among them. He had learned about their courage, their creativity, their endless determination. But most importantly, he had learned about human hope. Humans hoped even when hope seemed impossible. They dreamed even when dreams seemed foolish. They reached for the stars even when everyone told them to stay grounded. That was what made them special. That was what the collective had feared. Not human strength or human technology, but human spirit. The refusal to give up, to give in, to accept limits on what they could become. Keeper 7 had protected the archive for 2,000 years, waiting for someone worthy to reclaim it. Now its purpose was fulfilled. The last librarian of Soul could finally rest. But it chose not to. It chose to stay, to teach, to help humanity rise once more. Because it had been built by humans, and it shared their stubborn refusal to quit. The galaxy would change now. The careful order the collective had maintained for millennia would shatter. War would come, struggle, sacrifice. Many would die before peace returned. But in the end, humanity would take its place among the stars once more. Not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the dreamers and builders they had always been. As the stubborn ones who refused to stay down. As the species that turned impossible into not yet. The last librarian of soul had done its duty. The archive was open. The knowledge was shared. And humanity was awake. Let the galaxy tremble. The humans had returned.